The price of gold has reached record highs over the last several years, multiple times. But that might just be the beginning if a certain announcement takes place at a very important meeting coming up in August. We'll talk about that and so much more as we explore. De-dollarization is the word that has been bantered about over the last couple of years. And why is that? Well, we have the war in Ukraine that has imposed sanctions upon Russia and has a profound effect upon other nations that deal with Russia. So that's why we're seeing the strengthening of the BRICS nations. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But what else is causing people to lose faith in the dollar? And that is a devaluation due to inflation. And inflation has wreaked havoc on the dollar. It's at a 40-year high now, even though we're having a little bit of a disinflation right now. It is still double than what the Federal Reserve desires. The strength of the dollar compared to other currencies is why other nations around the world are starting to have second thoughts about the dollar. It's still far and above beyond other currencies. It is part of 60% of international transactions and foreign exchange reserves, but nonetheless, there is a growing sentiment towards de-dollarization, which is why the meeting that is coming up for the BRICS nations in August is going to be so important, and this very well could cause gold's price to explode. Now, what's happening here? The BRICS summit, and based off of the BRICS nations, with major players being Russia, India, and China, and they make up the vast majority of the population around the world. They are going to be meeting in Johannesburg on August the 22nd through the 24th to make a major announcement for a new trade settlement currency that will be announced then. It will be a major development for global markets and a threat to the dollar's future. A new supranational trade currency for the BRICS, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and the Eurasian Economic Union has the merit of not having to address the vested trade and domestic currency interest of each member state. It would be designated to ensure its reserve status does not give overriding power to one nation, which is unlike the dollar, which is why the dollar is so dominant. But it's also dominant because it is essentially the most stable of the currencies out there. Even though we do have inflation, it's by far and above and beyond some of the other currencies that are out there. As we see the world turn and its face away from the dollar at a very small pace, this leads to the potential of a development of a rival, a very strong rival that could be backed by gold. And if that happens, and if that's announced at this summit, then watch out. We could see gold's price explode. What does that mean? What does an explosion look like in terms of the price of gold? I'll talk about that later. But nonetheless, we know that gold is a store of value, and we know that central banks store it as well. They've been doing that at a record pace. In fact, we've had a 50-year high of the amount of gold stored in central banks around the world. So the case for gold is very, very strong, which means that also some of these mining companies, especially good ones like Gold Mining Incorporated, are highly undervalued. I'm going to talk about them in this sponsored video with the ticker symbol GLDG on the New York Stock Exchange. Gold mining is the leading company in the Western Hemisphere for gold acquisition and development projects. They take advantage of market downturns to make bold acquisitions. Timing is everything, and their balance sheet is vibrant and healthy. They have a market cap of $155 million. They also have a $36 million position into Gold Royalty. That's GROY, and that's a 20 million shares of the Gold Royalty Corporation. Their cash position is $8 million, and they have zero debt. They have an 80% position in another gold company that has the Whistler Alaskan project that's worth $112 million. So when you subtract these numbers from the market cap, that gives us $7 million. Now, gold mining owns a total of 13 gold projects with 22 million ounces of gold equivalent resources, which means that it has been discovered but not yet mined. So that provides a very good opportunity for a very good potential for high value. Now, the value of that gold is normally at $30 to $40 an ounce, with $660 million worth of gold in the ground. That means that they are massively undervalued by about 400%, which they conservatively value at $7 million. That's where that $7 million comes from. So dividend income is generated through their royalty company, GROY, as I mentioned earlier. They have no debt whatsoever. Their CEO is an expert in taking gold projects and advancing them. He's got a very long track record there. This provides tremendous value. Amir Adnani, the company's founder, knows this. He himself has a huge personal stake in shares. Now, other big names, these are names we all know. Rick Rule, Martin Cattusa, and Doug Casey are also shareholders. The analysts all agree that Gold Mining Incorporated is massively undervalued, with many of these agencies give it a price target of $5. But their stock is currently trading for around 90 cents as of the recording of this video. So this stock should be trading 5 times higher than where it is right now. So there's massive potential here with Gold Mining Incorporated. Now, as is the case with any company, you should do your own due diligence and research to see if this is something that's right for you as an investor. Ask questions. I'm going to post a link in the description to their website where you can contact them and peruse their corporate presentation and latest news on the company. Now, this is why it's important when companies like this and throughout the space of gold, well, there's a lot of potential there, and there's a lot of potential for gold to move even higher from its all-time highs that we've seen. And that is a remarkable thing about some of the geopolitical activities that are taking place in our world today. We live in a very interesting time, folks, and gold, I think, is going to really shine through this. Now, we are living through the summer months now, and the price of gold has come back a little bit to around that $1,900 an ounce level. But this announcement is probable that this announcement concerning the new currency will come out at the summit, but it's likely to be preliminary in nature, and gold might not even be mentioned at this stage. But they don't even really have to mention gold. They just have to allude to it, essentially. It would make more sense for it to be expanded from our already existing white papers and technical papers on how this thing is going to be brought out. But the very nature of having something that's going to rival the dollar very well could be good for gold. The only practical means of trying the new trade currency to multiple commodities and national interest is to use gold, because it's been seen as a safe haven by many nations around the world throughout history. So it's pretty amazing. And it also leads to the potential weakness in the dollar down the pike. That weakness in the dollar means that gold will rise in dollars, much as it has risen well beyond record highs in other currencies around the world. And so that's why gold could explode. Now, what does gold's price explosion look like? Because you use that word, it can mean that it could go to $3,000, $4,000 an ounce. Well, I'm telling you, even at $2,500 an ounce, that is an explosion of price, and that is something that is very, very possible, even if they don't specifically mention gold, even if they mention other commodities or some way to tie it together. If there's something that gives any kind of threat to the dollar, that means the dollar weakness, the DXY could go down, and that drop will send gold soaring, folks. Because if there's a real possibility that this new settlement currency between these BRICS nations actually works, and the way that it's presented and announced means that they have been working at it long enough time that they can make a confident announcement that it's coming, even if it doesn't actually start until 2030 or thereabouts. And especially with regards to the technology that is behind currencies these days and monies, especially with central bank digital currencies that are making their way through, they can use that technology to their advantage, and they can use that to either back and track along with gold or what have you. And I think also just the very fact that many of these nations have been accumulating gold at a record pace means that a new settlement currency to rival the dollar will be all that much of a greater of a threat, even if it's not specifically mentioned that it's backed by gold. So there you have it. Let me know what your thoughts are about this important development. It's something we're going to keep an eye on for sure. I've actually mentioned this in a prior video about this meeting coming up. It's going to be something to watch and see how it plays out. I hope you found this video informative, insightful, and educational. I would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch this video, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.